My name is James Falzon. I'm an associate at the EBRD. I'm going to talk about an investment that the EBRD did in Bosnia, in the roads network. And unfortunately, Mr. Smailovic is not able to join us today. He would have brought the in-country perspective on the importance of the road sector and climate resilience in the road sector. But luckily, we have the Moroccan perspective that can be brought by Mr. Berheit. Quickly, just some words on EBRD's adaptation finance for infrastructure. So the EBRD has invested since 2011 1.1 billion euros of adaptation finance in infrastructure. This has been in approximately 130 projects across all of our different regions of operation and across different sectors. There's been quite a emphasis on water projects, but there's also been quite a few projects in transport, power and energy, and property and tourism. So climate resilient roads. I think this picture really quickly describes what some of the issues are with roads when they're not able to withstand climate events. Imagine that you are living on the other side of that road, and this is your main access point to sell your goods or take your family member to the hospital. It's going to be quite difficult to get across that jump unless you're really brave and you just try and drive across. So roads are really like the arteries of our societies. If the road network is not able to serve the populations, then everything else in the economy can be affected. And in Bosnia in 2014, they had one of the worst, the worst precipitation events in 120 years. A third of the country was severely flooded, and the damage to the infrastructure was significant, especially the roads. The bank engaged with Bosnia and provided a 65 million euro loan to the roads company. And this involved the repair and upgrade of 34 road sections that were heavily damaged by the floods. And it involved repairing some of the roads that were damaged and strengthening some of the road sections that were deemed not able to resist these strong flood events. The work involved in the I'm going to look at it, let's say, in these two phases. So there was the pre-signing technical work to identify what would be the appropriate climate resilient measures to integrate. And then there was, it's still ongoing, an initiative to integrate, let's say, a more systemic approach to tackling climate change in Bosnia. So while the project was being prepared, we engaged a team of experts to look at the road sections that were being financed under the loan, and to identify, what are the vulnerabilities of these roads? What are the climate change vulnerabilities? They looked at climate projections for temperature, precipitation, storms, and assessed the potential climatic changes. And what they found was that precipitation events are likely to increase in frequency in future, and in intensity also. So these impacts were overlaid with the specific roads that were going to be financed under the investments. And some suggestions were made as to how to enhance the climate resilience. And these are very specific technical measures, such as enhancing drainage systems, strengthening vulnerable slopes. I think you can see on this slide that there was a lot of landslides that occurred, and this is something in the mountainous regions that was quite important. Again, to protect against landslides, rock mattresses, to avoid erosion, and to also improve some of the bypass roads to enhance let's say, the other options. Just in case one road goes, you have another option to get to a certain zone. So building in redundancy into the system. So I mentioned that after the signing, there was also it was recognized that there was a need to, let's say, build in systemic changes within the Bosnian, the way that the Bosnian roads were being managed. We've spoken a lot about today about the uncertainties over time, and one way to deal with uncertainties is to really have the capacity to adjust your practices and identify, what changes need to be made over time and react quickly to new information. So in this post-signing technical cooperation that was funded by the Central European Initiative, we contracted the Swedish roads agency, SweRoads, to work with the Bosnian Roads Company to build capacity to address climate change in the roads network. So this involved strengthening collaboration between different stakeholders in the road sector, undertaking assessments of the climate risks across the road network, and analysing road designs and trying to think about how best international practice could be introduced into Bosnia. And just on this assessment of climate risks, so the SweRoads, they introduced into Bosnia this assessment that they've been using, so it was a transfer of international best practices to identify vulnerabilities with different stakeholders in a workshop type setting, where you have the Hydromet agency, you have the roads agency, you have experts that that bring different things to the table, and they, with all the different available maps, data, information, and local knowledge, they go through this simple process to identify the risks, analyze, what are they going to look like, and evaluate the importance of these risks and how they're going to be addressed, or if it's something that's a priority to be addressed, and then who has the responsibility to look into it further. So that's ongoing. That they're piloting that approach on a few different road networks, road stretches next week in Bosnia, and I think it would have been great to have Senad to talk about that particular activity, but there's a lot of work going on in Morocco, and I think Mr. Rabat will be able to provide the perspective of, what does it mean to be running a roads agency, and how is a road agency or roads administration thinking about how to integrate climate change into the daily operations.